Welcome, esteemed delegates, to the City Network for the Kuan Yew World City Prize Knowledge Forum. My name is Inhee from the Center for Livable Cities, and I will be your MC for today. To begin today's session, may I invite Professor Cheong Hean, Chair of the Nominating Committee of the Kuan Yew World City Prize and Chair of the Advisory Panel for the Center for Livable Cities, to give her opening remarks. Professor Cheong, please.
Well, good morning. I think you have so many speeches, and here's another one. But good morning, really great to see all of you. I think this morning you heard my minister, Mr. Desmond Lee, announce the launch of the City Network for the Kuan Yew World City Prize. Actually, this is an initiative to foster deeper city-to-city partnerships to create and exchange knowledge on sustainable and livable cities. So I'm really pleased to welcome all of you to the network's first program for today, which is the Knowledge Forum. But before we begin, maybe I just give you a little bit background about this network. Actually, this network builds on the Kuan Yew World City Prize. And over some 12 years since the prize inception, we are really pleased to have recognized 7 laureate cities and another 20 special mention cities. And all these cities are role models in undertaking very successful holistic transformation over 10 to 20 years. Actually, I visited most of the cities and I learned so much from all of them. And collectively, these cities offer a very rich source of knowledge and experience. By creating the network, we really hope to offer to member cities a platform for mutual sharing and learning. Why? Because the cities come from very diverse backgrounds and across different continents. There is a rich pool of experience in tackling a broad range of urban issues and challenges. Actually, this is really true because if you look at the laureate cities, they don't only come from those cities that are always listed as the most livable cities in the world in some index. They come from all different continents with different backgrounds. And because of that, their experience is going to be very relevant for different types of cities with different issues. So we hope that through the sharing of best practices and in our conversations with each other, we can distill and uncover innovations and novel solutions that be useful for each of our individual circumstances. We also hope that the platform will offer opportunities for the building of relationships at various levels across cities. And these, of course, must include mayors, but not only mayors, but also city hall, planning departments, and knowledge organizations. I think we would like to get to know each other also at a professional level. And ultimately, we envision this network to be a community of practice for urban leaders and practitioners of some of the best cities in the world. I'm very pleased that the 7 prize laureates of the prize have come forward as founding members of this network. I'm also pleased to share that the special mentions of the prize too has been invited to be part of this network. And together we will be working towards multilateral research collaborations, projects, and pilots. And as the role models of urban excellence, their participation is a strong endorsement of the value of such a knowledge exchange network in creating more livable and sustainable cities across the world. And I also want to thank you for working with Singapore Center for Livable Cities and the Urban Redevelopment Authority to co-create the foundation of this network. So thank you for your very positive response. It's very encouraging for us. And the initiatives and joint outputs from this network is really intended to inspire other cities towards excellence. And today's forum is really open to all participants. Is an example of how we do this sharing. So later we will have on stage the representatives from the think tanks, the knowledge centers, and institutes from the founding member cities. And together we will reflect on the urban challenges and the best practices of their respective cities over the last decades leading to today. We want to know your secret sauce. all right? That will be very fitting for our lunch. And we will also discuss how we can leverage this knowledge exchange and collaborative network to prepare for the future, which if we don't do well could be pretty bleak. So we need to do a lot of work to make our cities better. So I hope you will find today's exchange vibrant and inspiring, and I really look forward to enduring long-term partnerships with the members of the Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize Network. So thank you, and I look forward to the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Cheong. Today's Knowledge Forum takes the form of a panel discussion. We are honored to have with us an esteemed panel comprising representatives from knowledge organizations and city halls from the Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize laureate cities who are the network's founding members. The panel will be moderated by Professor Lam Ki Pro, Provost Chair Professor of Architecture and the Built Environment, National University of Singapore, and member of the advisory panel for the Center for Livable Cities. May I invite our moderator and our panelists on stage, please.
Everybody settled, comfortable? Important to be comfortable. All right, very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. Welcome to this inaugural session, this Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize Network Knowledge Forum. I'm especially honored and thrilled to be invited to moderate this first session. While I'm a professor, I'm also an architect by training. And so in my world, it's all about practical work, getting it done, getting it built. We have heard a lot about the various strategies and tactics, and that's great. And there is a gelling together of those ideas and methodologies around the world. I think that sort of is already in my opinion, in a very good state and in progressing well. But as we dwell down into the details, I think that's where a lot of things matters. It was the German American architect Ludwig Mies van der Rohe who was attributed to quoting this phrase called "God is in the details." I'm sure all of you have heard that before, right? However, if you Google that phrase versus another phrase, which is "the devil is in the details," that is becoming more and more dominant. The devil, I mean, we all attribute good things to God and bad things to the devil. I think this is something that I think all of us would continue to face. I'm not going to, take time to introduce all our esteemed panelists because time is precious. I'd rather dig in and then pose a question and ask each of the panel representatives, who is seated here, by the way, in order of their sequence of when they actually achieve the prize, from the earliest to the most recent, Mexico City. So when I pose a question, the format will be, I would like all of them to basically respond to that same question. I think that's important, rather than creating, again, different sort of perspectives and different ideas. There are some common challenges we all face. Regardless of our social, economic, right, geopolitical, and physical infrastructure, ultimately it's about humanity, and that's all of us. Whether we are the people who are the consumer or whether we are the producer, we are all part and parcel of that ecosystem. And I think that is the shared aspiration and commonality with which the questions are being posed, so that they can react and respond. Okay? Are we good with that, everybody? Agree? Good. All right. So the first question really is reflecting on your journey to achieving the prize, the Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize, and as laureate, what do you consider to be those key policies, plans and transformation that has led you to that prize? So that question is about reflecting on the history, right? It's good to look back and to reflect what had been done. And then the second part of the question is, after you've got your prize, what has happened since then in the respective periods subsequent to the award? So that's my first general question to the panel. So we will start with Ms. Postigo, who's the General Director from Bilbao Metropoli 30. Okay.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure and an honor to be part of this session, and especially to occupy this first place representing the city of Bilbao, together with my colleagues. Okay, what are the key elements that I think were part of Bilbao being recognized by the Lee Kuan Yew Prize more than 10 years ago? Well, talking about specific projects, we carried out a deep transformation in an industrial region based on shipbuilding and steel industries. We were a wealthy region, but we were industrial, and the main sectors on which we based our prosperity collapsed at the end of last century. And that brought a severe crisis in our metropolitan area. We had to face rates of unemployment of nearly 30% in some of the 30 villages of metropolitan Bilbao. And Professor Cheong was explaining about our different contexts. In our case, the context was essential to understand the revitalization process of metropolitan Bilbao. Because in this emergency situation, in this dramatic context, it allowed public-private collaboration schemes like Bilbao Metropoli 30, the entity that I represent. And it is very difficult sometimes to replicate these public-public and public-private collaboration schemes if the situation is not so dramatic. So in our case, the crisis become an opportunity. So that is one of the, let's say, secrets about how Bilbao, let's say, carried out such a big and ambitious transformation process. Yesterday in the Mayor's Forum, one of the conclusions was focused on the fact that having a long-term vision, a shared vision for our cities is essential. And in the Bilbao case, I think we had this shared vision. And our vision was to transform an industrial region to become a modern and cultural metropolis, and this is what Bilbao is nowadays. But it doesn't mean that we don't have challenges. We will talk about that afterwards in more questions. There were lots of specific examples of projects like the enlargement of the port, the cleaning of the river, lots of transport projects like the underground system by Norman Foster, of course some of the most relevant cultural infrastructures like the Guggenheim Museum designed by Frank Gehry and so on. But just to finish with my first intervention, some of the key elements that apart from those specific projects have been key for the Bilbao story were the identity of our Basque culture based on what we call auzolan, which means collective action, that made possible this public-private cooperation and that unleashed the potential of our community to become a real vehicle of change with one single certainty, that we cannot do it alone. Also, we made this transformation based on a set of values that placed equality as a radical commitment and as an axis of our imaginary. And finally, in this dramatic situation, we believed that we were capable of doing things that probably were beyond our conscious capacities. So the narrative that we were capable of addressing these changes is what made the transformation real. So that's, let's say, the open secret of the Bilbao case. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
following Bilbao is hard, but I'll just say Tom Wright. I'm with the Regional Plan Association in New York City, and it's a great honor to be here today representing New York as a laureate and recipient of the Lee Kuan Yew Prize. When the prize was given to New York City, it was an important recognition of the activities of the Bloomberg administration. Michael Bloomberg was mayor during an incredible time in the history of New York City. He became mayor just a few weeks after 9/11 and was in charge of rebuilding the city from that. And from that effort and the planning that went into it, he created an administration that kept learning and growing and evolving, and eventually adopted what we called Plan NYC, which was New York City's first ever long-range plan. Prior to that, New York City had never had officially a long-range plan. Other organizations, outside groups, would talk about what New York should do, but the city had never done this kind of planning for itself. And the elements of that plan, which were really just proposals at the time that it was awarded by the Lee Kuan Yew Prize, have now over the last dozen years moved towards implementation in really, really important ways. The plan was all about resiliency and climate change and preparing the city for what we knew was going to come. We then, a few years later, Superstorm Sandy came, and we were pummeled by an extraordinary storm, and that put more emphasis, of course, towards our resiliency planning. But really, I think the overall issue was that it was important for New York to finally have a plan, and that plan, the components of it, would comprehensively start to move the city in the right direction. It had elements about providing access to green space for all New Yorkers, and at the time that the plan was put together, roughly 1 in 2 New Yorkers lived too far to walk easily to a park or green space. Today, almost everybody in New York City does. We started the effort of redesigning our streets and thinking about complete streets, bringing a bike share program and designing bike routes and creating streets that were more adaptable. Of course, then COVID hits, our streets are shut down, New Yorkers need somewhere to go, and we completely start reusing the streets, as many cities have. But all of that, we had the armature, the plan in place, thanks to Plan NYC. And what was really important about it was this was an administration willing to create plans that they knew they would not be around to finish. And one of the things that I'm very excited about is that for the first time ever, a mayor, an elected official of New York City said, we should have congestion pricing, and we should charge people to drive into the city. And it occurs to me that in exactly 4 weeks and 7 minutes, New York City will have congestion pricing after that effort from Plan NYC. And so that's what we're talking about. It's planting seeds, knowing that you may not be there for them, but that future generations will benefit from what you're doing. And I think that the prize was really important to New Yorkers understanding that the rest of the world was paying attention to what they were doing. And so if you ask me what was the policy, why did we receive it? The policy was the man and the administration and the team that he embodied. But Michael Bloomberg was an extraordinary leader who really started New York in a different direction, and we're still on that path.
Thank you, Tom. 姚总。
谢谢林教授。我很高兴跟大家分享这个苏州的一些经历和工作。
I'm very pleased to be here today to introduce some of the work that Suzhou is doing today.
苏州是2014年获得李光耀世界城市奖，当时获奖的最主要的原因是苏州在古城保护和经济发展之间呢实现了很好的平衡。
Suzhou is awarded the Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize in 2014, and the key to success is that Suzhou achieved a balance between the economic growth and the protection of Asian city.
这个成就呢，其实来源于一个很重要的规划的策略。苏州从1986年的第1版城市总体规划到今天编了第4轮了， 现在编的呢是到面向2035年的。这4轮规划呢都坚持一个重要的规划原则，就是全面保护古城，建设现代新区。
And the key to achieve the balance is that Suzhou has adopted a planning strategy of comprehensively protecting the Asian city and actively building a new district. And from the very first comprehensive plan in 1986 to the 4th edition of the comprehensive plan of 2035, this concept has been integrated thoroughly and continues even today.
获奖的这10年以来，我们持续的还在做这个方向的工作。一个呢是在古城里面呢，我们是从保护走向了更新。
And 10 years on, Suzhou continues its efforts. In the Asian cities, we are transforming from the stage of protection to the stage of renewal.
更新的主要的工作呢，就是一个呢是把这个城市的活力重新的焕发，就是古城里面我们把行政办公这些传统的功能呢，把它搬出去了，因为它会占用很多的这个历史文化的资源，但是我们替代的呢是更加适合历史文化发挥的一些功能，比如说文化创意的产业，比如一些文化旅游的这样的相应的一些产业。
And one of the focuses of the renewal projects in the Asian city is trying to bring back the vitality of the city. For instance, we are removing some of the office buildings, especially those government offices, out of the Asian city and then bring back the industries or the business formats that are more suitable to Asian cities, such as tourism or cultural creativity industries.
第二个重点呢是要解决古城的交通问题，因为苏州的古城呢在城市的中心，所以不同片区的这个通勤交通呢会穿越古城，所以我们在这个10年呢加快了地铁的建设，古城的轨道交通的覆盖率大幅的提高，所以大量的穿越式交通呢就可以去疏解了。
And the second focus of the renewal is about transportation, because the Asian city of Suzhou sits at the core in the middle of the entire city. So there's a lot of very heavy traffic volume every day running through from the west to the east or the east to the west. And one of the practices of Suzhou is leading is metro stations building and the public transport system across through the Asian city.
第3个呢是改善住在古城里面的居民的生活环境，因为古城的房子都比较老了，基础设施也老了，然后原来的这个公园绿地是比较缺的，所以在这10年里面呢，我们重点在推进地下管网的更新，这个房屋的修缮，然后还增加很多口袋公园等等这样一些小的绿地。
And the third focus here is to improve day-to-day living environment for people. For instance, renewing the infrastructures, especially the underground pipe networks, and renovating the old residential communities, and also building more parks in the Asian city.
另外呢，在外围的新城，我们重点做2件事情。第一件事呢，就是推动产业的转型和升级。我们把传统的制造业的工业园区，向科技园区、向这个创新园区去进行升级。
While meanwhile in the new cities, we are also having a lot of practices for industrial transformations. So the industrial parks are transitioning into technology parks.
这个过程中呢，我们引入了很多大学和这个科研院所，还有一些研究型的企业。
And we are attracting a lot of universities and research institutes in this process.
第2件事呢，就是把新城的功能更加的多元。原来的新城呢，产业为主，现在呢，我们把它增加了 居住、生活、商业，还有更高品质的公共空间。所以很多新城呢，也成了很吸引人、很有活力的一些综合型的城区。
And the second practice that we do in the new cities is to diversify various urban functions, because previously it was mostly manufacturing land or factories in the new district, but today we are building more public space, more residential communities, and thus attracting more newcomers to come to Suzhou and make it more vibrant.
这些工作呢还在持续，过程中呢也遇到很多挑战，一会儿我们再分享，我占用太多时间了，谢谢。
And we're continuing all of these efforts, and in the meantime, we also face a lot of challenges that we will be sharing later. Thank you.
Thank you, Yanzhuan. Next, Mayor Gutierrez, over to you.
Hello, me again. I look like deja vu. En Spanish. Yo crecí y mi generación creció en medio de la violencia, en medio de los atentados terroristas, en medio de los carros bombas, en medio del caos. Contar la historia hoy es muy diferente a contar cómo arrancamos y cómo fuimos superando los peores momentos de la violencia.
I was born in the most difficult time of Colombia, when we were bombed, and at the time that we couldn't even go out of our houses or anything. So right now, to tell the story here today is another different story.
En los peores momentos creemos que no es posible. Y eso fue lo que llegamos a vivir. Nadie creía en nosotros como sociedad. Y fue donde sacamos lo mejor de nosotros, entre el sector privado, el sector público, las universidades y la sociedad civil, y se definió hace ya algunas décadas, o básicamente hace 20 años, un plan para sacar a Medellín adelante.
At the worst times, we do not believe in what we are capable of, and at that time, nobody believed in us as a city, as a society. And what we did 20 years ago, a plan was established to transform Medellín between the public, the private, and the civil society.
Mal haría yo decir que la transformación de Medellín se debe solo a nosotros o a una sola persona, porque lo que ha pasado en Medellín es un producto de una transformación colectiva como sociedad.
It wouldn't be right for me to say that this transformation that Medellín has undergone is just because of me. This has been a collective process, a collaborative process, and it's been for many years, and this is like a collaborative effort.
Llegar al punto del año 2016 en el cual fuimos reconocidos con el premio Kuan Yew significaron muchos años de transformación, tanto física como social.
To be recognized with the Kuan Yew Prize in 2016, it means that there's been a lot that we have done as a society, and it's a recognition of many years of hard work.
Y al ser una sociedad y una ciudad resiliente, entendíamos que el punto, que ahí no terminaba todo, sino que por el contrario, ser reconocidos con el premio Kuan Yew y en la red de ciudades significaba era un impulso y un punto de inflexión hacia adelante de cómo, si ya habíamos logrado grandes cosas, cómo teníamos que hacer mucho mejor las cosas a partir de ese momento.
So to be recognized by the Kuan Yew Prize, it wasn't the end. It was like an inflection point to keep working even harder than we have done before. And we already, as a resilient city and as a resilient society, we needed to do more and more in order to keep transforming Medellín.
Y al salir de la lista de las ciudades más violentas del mundo, cuando llegábamos a tener en 1991 la más violenta, y como yo les digo, hoy tenemos la tasa más baja de homicidios de los últimos 40 años, cómo eso nos ha permitido pensar en ya tantas cosas, en urbanismo social, en educación, en salud, en medio ambiente, en innovación, ciencia y tecnología, cómo darle oportunidades a nuestros jóvenes.
To get out of the list, to be taken out of the list of the most violent city of the world, because in 91, we were the most violent city of the world. No one wanted to go to Medellin. No one believed that we were capable of undergoing this transformation. And now we have the smallest homicide rate of the past 4 years. And now we are focusing on social, or like urban social, education, health, science and technology, creative industries, and giving the opportunities to the young. So they are the future generations that will enjoy what we are doing today and will benefit from it.
Pasamos de la lista de las 50 ciudades más violentas del mundo a estar en la lista del Lee Kuan Yew, de la red de ciudades, en la lista de las ciudades resilientes, en la lista de C40, en la lista como vicepresidentes de la red mundial y en la lista de las ciudades más innovadoras del mundo y de las ciudades que tiene hoy mayor entretenimiento y en la lista de las ciudades que más innovan en América Latina y en el mundo.
We went for being the most violent city of the world to earning the Lee Kuan Yew Prize, one of the most resilient cities. We're now the vice president for a second time of the C40 network. We are also the most innovative city of the world. And right now we have a very creative industry. We are well known because for our singers, as he has said, Maluma, J Balvin, all the singers, Karol G, and everyone. So here we are.
Y finalmente, entendemos que tenemos una responsabilidad con nuestra ciudad, pero también es una historia que tiene que inspirar a tantas ciudades en América Latina y en el mundo que sienten que no son capaces de salir del pozo más profundo en el que han caído. Y por eso Medellín es una ciudad resiliente que tienen que inspirar.
So finally, we have a huge responsibility, not only as a city, but as a society, to inspire, because our history can inspire cities all over Latam and the world that they might not believe in themselves to undergo a transformation. So this is an invitation for all the cities all over the world to be inspired by the history of Medellin.
Thank you very much, Mayor, for sharing. Dr. Kim.
Yeah.
Over to you.
To apply the Lee Kuan Yew Prize, so I think 8 or 9 years ago, we tried to prepare the urban regeneration project in Seoul and also 2030 Seoul master plan, which was made by citizens. And then with Seoul Institute and Metropoli government, and through this experience, we realized, maybe Seoul's planning culture, planning structure is not bad. Because until then, we don't have any time to think our past. Every 2 or 3 years, we make a plan, revise plan, change the plan, and we don't have any time. Instead of, we try to follow New York, Bilbao's case, or Singapore's. And we don't have any time to reflect our past. And that is, I think, very valuable time to apply Lee Kuan Yew Prize, that we have an opportunity to think about our past. That is a really good result. And what happened after Lee Kuan Yew Prize? Personally, I can hear the beautiful Espanol language. I like Espanol language. They all me. It's beautiful language. That is my personal. And what happened then after Lee Kuan Yew? Of course, the urban regeneration and 2030 Seoul master plan was very famous within a domestic in Korea. It's not because of the Lee Kuan Yew, but certainly after Lee Kuan Yew Prize, we have a lot of opportunity from the foreign cities. They came to visit us, and we discussed about the Seoul master plan, urban regeneration project, because of the Lee Kuan Yew. Not only 100%, but Lee Kuan Yew Prize gave a motivation to have a global network. And then, I have been working 2003 in Seoul Institute, and I am very good trained to be criticized. I don't have a problem. You can be criticized, no problem. We try to make and my colleague, they gave me a critique, hey, Inhee, you have a problem, and they have a good eye to find a problem, but they don't give us creative ideas. That is a problem. And after Lee Kuan Yew Prize, we have a global network, and we have different ideas and different culture and different languages, and then we became more open-minded and flexible. And that is the basic condition to make a creative solution. And since Lee Kuan Yew Prize, our plains culture in Seoul, more creative and more open, and that is the result of Lee Kuan Yew Prize. And that's why, again, thank you very much for this opportunity in Singapore and all of this network.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. Next, Dr. Lutter from Vienna.
Yes, and thanks you. We're still honored to have received the prize in 2020. At that time, we were in the midst of Corona crisis, and it was only 2 years later that we were able then to receive the prize here in Singapore in 2022. And we're, of course, glad to invite you to Vienna for next year's Mayors Forum 2025. Now, when we received the prize in 2020, our what we call smart city strategy in Vienna was brand new, and although it's called a smart city strategy, it's not a digital technology strategy. It's like so many understandings of the term smart city, but it's a strategy about sustainable development, which means responsible use of natural resources, decarbonization, forward-looking urban development. And as it is in the DNA of Vienna, it's always about inclusiveness. So all that we are planning, all that we are doing is aiming to provide benefits for everybody living and working in the city, and kind of leaving no one behind in the city. Now, since we have received the prize, we have kind of developed a roadmap for implementing this strategy. We have set up various governance structures for that, and in particular, we have started implementing programs. And I just want to pick out 1 or 2 examples of that because I feel that they're important. On the one hand, we try to prove that it's possible to develop housing estates that are completely relying on renewable resources. And there are some examples where you can see that via combining photovoltaics and thermal component activation and gas pumps and so on. Housing estates can be fully reliant on renewable energies, while at the same time being still affordable. So these are projects that still fall under affordable, sustainable housing. And that's important to see that it's not only a question of high value, but also of affordability. The second thing is that building new houses is comparably easy compared to renewing the existing housing stock. And we have perhaps the hugest program since the last 100 years in Vienna, which is going into the existing housing stocks. We have perhaps 2/3 of all flats and apartments in Vienna that are still heated with natural gas. And the aim is, within the next 14 years, to get rid of all those gas systems. And this is a huge effort to be taken. And again, because it's we have to go into the single apartments of 2/3 of all households in Vienna. And that brings me to my third point, which is participation. We won't succeed with this strategy if we don't involve people actively and bring them into the game, and not only tell our stories to them, but helping them being part of this story. And that's why we set up some participation schemes. One is that people on a very local, on a district level, may develop their ideas for climate action in their district. They may then develop projects out of this together with public administration and with the experts of the city. And in the end, a citizen jury will decide how the available public budget then will be used for implementing the projects. And this is kind of a turnaround in strategy. So it's not only that public authorities are telling now we are getting rid of cars in the street, and you should be happy with that, but that we ask people to come up with their ideas, and you see that then they will come up with exactly those ideas: more green streets, less traffic, more sustainable development, more accessibility of green space, and so on. But it's now their efforts and their ideas that the public authorities are enforcing. And I believe this is a crucial issue to bring people into the game.
Thank you, thank you. Last but not least, Mr. Clark, Mexico City.
Hello, thank you so much for the invitation. It's truly an honor to be the latest awardee of the Lee Kuan Yew Prize. We are in really good company, and we are extremely happy for that. And I particularly came to understand what the Lee Kuan Yew Prize was really only after winning it, to be honest. I was really happy when we applied, and I was incredibly proud to showcase the city. But really it was until the announcement that I understood just the importance of just in how good company we were, and the importance that the government of Singapore gives to this award because of what it means for cities around the world. And I particularly enjoyed the prize for one reason, and I think Mayor Federico was mentioning it, because it's a prize that does not only award cities for where they are right now. It does not go to the usual suspects of those cities that have most of their problems solved. In my opinion, it is very valuable because it tries to look at how cities were at some point and where they are now, and trying to really award the prize based on that journey rather than the position that we occupy. Because cities are incredibly different today, and the challenges that we face are common, but we are in different spots to face them, both in terms of resources, both in terms of urgency, both in terms of the political moments that we occupy in our cities. And that is the true beauty, I believe, of this award, which is about the journey rather than the results itself at a particular point in time. And as I hear the experiences of our fellow laureate cities, I see that most of them started in a crisis point that was very different to each one of them. I hear about Bilbao and how they were in terms of deindustrialization and the challenges that posed. Medellin in terms of the violence they saw 30 years ago. In case of Sonsho, we hear about the conflict, about protecting the ancient city and the current development. We all face different dilemmas. And I would like to speak a little bit about the one dilemma that I believe triggered the transformation that we hope to be continuing in Mexico City. And in this particular case, I think that the overarching component of our mission has to do with inequality, particularly in a country as unequal as Mexico, and with how cities should really understand that outcomes should be better distributed among its citizens. I was worried when the visitors of the Lee Kuan Yew Prize Committee visited us in Mexico 6 months ago. I see 3 of them here. We have Chris somewhere over there and Eugene, because I decided, based on the mayor's instructions, to take them to places that visitors don't usually see. Usually when people go to Mexico City, they go to Polanco, which is our poshest neighborhood. They take them to Reforma, which is our fanciest avenue. And we try to show them the results of a Mexico that we are proud of, but it's a Mexico of very unequal results. A Mexico that only 5–10% of the population has been able to enjoy. And we decided to bring them to those places that are really far away from that Mexico that tourists usually know. Our borough in Iztapalapa that houses 2 million citizens and is by far the poorest borough in the city. Places that used to be trash dumps. Places where the people that truly inhabit Mexico City suffer the most and feel the most need to improve. And that has been the overarching component, I believe, of the transformation in Mexico City. Understanding that we need to change and that we needed to change the vision so that the biggest investments went not to the flashiest places, not to the most politically easiest returns, but really to satisfy the needs of those people that were left behind for such a long time. And just to mention some of those things, I won't take too much time, but we decided, for example, and this is also that we took on the example of Medellin, to build the 3 longest cable car lines in the world, urban cable car lines in the world. And instead of building them right in the middle of the city, we'll build them in the mountains, half an hour away from downtown Mexico City, in the places that we knew people took 3-4 hours to get to their jobs every day, and we cut that by 75%. We decided to concentrate our efforts in terms of water management and rainwater collection, not in the middle of the city and in the urban parks, but in those places where truly and tragically there is still no piped water. Places out of our population of nearly 10 million that represent 2 or 3 million people that don't have access to modern sanitation even. And those are the places that we decided to show them. We decided to show them our community centers, which are something that we feel very proud about. We built 300 of them. But instead of building them in places that were safe, we decided to build them in places that were heavily unsafe. And I think that we feel very proud about, and I think that some of the members of the prize committee hopefully saw that, is that the building of this infrastructure in places that are really underserved had not only the component of satisfying a need for community centers, for example, but also showing that great design, that great quality construction, great quality materials, great quality services needed also to be delivered to those places. Sometimes we forget that everybody has the same dignity, and sometimes we forget that everybody should have access to great design, because great design is not only about looking great, but it's also about functionality. And so when we decide to invest in great design in places that are very far away, and that sometimes some people would say, you know, people that live there won't value that design, that is what we're trying to go against, trying to understand that really what we need to invest is in the most. And I could go on, sorry, I get really emotional.
Thank you. You certainly are.
But
I think your points really are pertinent, really, very. Thank you so much. So, yeah, time is always a constraint. If I was a professor setting that question, collectively as a team, you all scored A+. Because, and I don't say it lightly, I'm a tough professor, you really made collectively all the key points. And I just want to highlight very quickly, I know time is up, because there's one more question I want to pose to end up. First is about time. Time to reflect, to look back, to appreciate what has been done, and to be able to plan forward. I think for unforeseen and constantly changing situation. That, I think, is such a key point. With all the technologies that we have, the idea was supposed to give us more time. But yet, the question remains open. Is it really helping or is it hurting? That is pushing us constantly without this time to reflect, to appreciate, especially our people, right, our communities. I think that's really number one. Number two is that constant reminder that we need to plan forward. It's in our life nowadays, it's all about instant gratification, I call it. I want something, I want it now, you know? And that actually can have a detrimental effect in the future. And I think as leaders in both public and private, it's so important to drive this idea home to in our own particular work as well as in the community, that you have to plan. You know, in the building industry, there's this facility management always have this phrase that say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. My response to that is, if it ain't broke, it will break. So you better be prepared. I think that should be the mindset moving forward in order to deal with all this. So with that, I have one last question, which has to do with work. Now that we've formed this forum and this network, in 1 minute or 90 seconds, what agenda would you like to put on the table so that collectively we can actually develop a plan, whether it's research, R&D as well as implementation. Just maybe in 90 seconds, tell us what would you like to see as an agenda for this network group.
Okay, it's a challenge, 90 seconds, but let's go for it. In Bilbao, we have some local challenges, like demographic challenges. Perhaps these are specific of our city, but we have one of the lowest birth rates, not only in Europe, but in the world. We have a big life expectancy. This is good, but we are old and we are getting older. So that's a transversal challenge for us that we would like to share with the rest of the Lee Kuan Yew cities. From the perspective of the city of Bilbao, we are trying to counteract this demographic challenge with projects like new areas of opportunity, making Bilbao a university city to attract younger talent, also including a transversal vision for urban planning, including psychology, sociology, philosophy, because we have focused very much on the physical appearance of the city, but we need humanizing our cities. Eduardo was saying that I like the fact that we are not perfect cities, and this is something that I think it's essential. We are not perfect, and that's positive. And on the other side, we bring to the table some global challenges. We live at a time that has called into question some of the paradigms on which we've based our prosperity and competitiveness in the recent decades. But the COVID pandemic and the wars that we are suffering across the world make us conscious that we need, for Bilbao, we are proposing what we call an urban revolution. Not in a sense of an insurrection, it's not that so, but we want to create a platform of people, commitment, appetite, and even frustration of the fact that we all know the theory, but changes are perhaps not happening with the intensity or at the speed that is needed. So that's the challenges we want to share.
Great topics.
Thank you.
To be taken. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. I'll just, you know, as others have talked about, look, the two great challenges we have are dealing with the climate challenge and inequality. And in New York, kind of, I would say in 3 different areas that we're addressing it, and we're making real progress in 2 of them. On climate, we are becoming more resilient. We're planning intelligently at our waterfront. We are bringing renewable energy online. We're really doing a lot of good stuff there, and my friend and colleague Red Agarwal talked about some of that yesterday. And in transportation, it's an incredible golden period in New York. We're probably in the middle. In the last 10 years, we extended a new subway line to the west side, built phase 1 of 2nd Avenue, connected a commuter rail to a new city. Any one of these projects would have been the biggest thing to happen from 1950 to 2000. And 4 or 5 of them have happened in less than 10 years, and there are another 4 or 5 in the pipeline to happen in the next 10 years. So we're doing a really good job. But the place, and I apologize because my friends and colleagues have heard me talking about this for days, where we are failing in New York is in housing. Our housing supply is too small. When the Great Recession hit, housing production dropped dramatically and it has not recovered. 2 years ago, the vacancy rate of rental housing in New York City was 4.5%. That's a very tight market. In 2 years, it dropped to 1.5%. We are short by about 500,000 units today, and by 2035, it'll be 1 million units if we don't dramatically change direction. We know that there's a regulatory aspect of this, we know there's a financial aspect of it, and there's also really a planning aspect of it, which is that communities resist housing because they think it will be ugly, it will change the character of their communities, they don't want it. And so my plea to this group is to help us sort this out, because we are failing in New York and we need help. And so there's my ask.
Thank you. Great. Yeah.
谢谢。苏州呢，经过40年的快速发展，大家都知道中国呢有一个特点，就是城市日新月异，但这个过程呢也现在走向了尾声。
After 40 years of development, Suzhou, like many other cities in China, even though the city is changing rapidly, but also this accelerating speed of urbanization is also slowing down today.
我们也开始遇到很多刚才其他城市说到的一些共性的问题，
We're also facing some of the common challenges the other cities are facing.
比如这个极端的气候，因为设施的老旧导致的各种安全的这个风险都在不断的加剧。
Like such as extreme climate events or public safety issues due to some of the outdated infrastructures and facilities.
一些新技术的发展，比如说网络电商，这个大家都知道啊，还有现在无人驾驶、低空飞行等等，这些都在改变我们城市里面的人的行为方式。
And the challenges are brought out by new technologies such as the e-commerce, the driverless cars, the low-altitude flight, and the virtual reality. And all these technologies are changing the behavior of people living in the city.
同时，我们的社会结构也在不断的变化，老龄化越来越严重，年轻人，像咱们首尔应该也是这样，不愿意结婚，不愿意生孩子。
And the social network is also changing too, as well in Suzhou, like the silver hair, the aging society, and small-sized families where probably like Seoul, young couples are not willing to get married or having more children. These are all issues and challenges we're facing today.
所以我们也希望借助这个知识网络的这样一个平台，我们来一个呢是更好的分享我们各个城市的经验，当然也有一些不好的这个教训，我们要来避免。
Thank you.
And and we would like to use this knowledge network platform to better share the experience and some hard lessons of other cities. Thank you.
谢谢。没有。
Adicional a las dificultades o los retos que tenemos nosotros como ciudad y como país, hay un cambio en términos demográficos y de composición poblacional debido a la pérdida de democracia en la región, como lo que ha pasado en Venezuela. Hoy el 8% de la población de Medellín es población migrante venezolana.
So besides the challenges that my laureate cities have mentioned, we are undergoing a demographic change due to the loss of democracy in the Latin American region. For example, Venezuela, right now 8% of the population in Medellín are immigrant from Venezuela.
Lo primero es que hay que cuidar la democracia. Segundo, yo quisiera que la red nos apoyara mucho en ese contexto, sobre todo latinoamericano, por lo cual me alegra además compartir ya como ciudad del premio con México, porque son dos contextos muy similares. Tenemos retos, claro que sí, pero son contextos muy diferentes. Y yo me centraría básicamente en la capacidad que tuvieron todas estas ciudades, arrancando como ciudad de Estado con Singapur, el tema de Seúl, Bilbao, tantas otras, alrededor del tema de la educación, de nuestros niños, de nuestros jóvenes, la innovación, la ciencia y la tecnología, y cómo aprovechar para la solución de los problemas que hoy tenemos la cuarta revolución industrial a través de la inteligencia artificial.
And right now, first we have to take care of democracy. And I will ask this network to support us, and I'm really happy because now we have Mexico, which is another city in the region. Even though we're different, we're in a similar context. Even though we have different challenges, we might share some challenges. And what I will ask this network to do is to learn from the capacity of Seoul, of Singapore, of Bilbao, that you guys have done really good things with education, and we want to focus on education for our kids, for our young people. Also focus in innovation, science, and technology, and look for the solutions to our problems and to our challenges with utilize in the fourth industrial revolution and I know, and artificial intelligence. He's translating me, so we're good. We're a good team.
Okay.
Yeah, the climate changes and the future city or agenda of this year, I think is a perfect setting. But the mayors and leaders cannot realize it. They can through the issues, but they can, because within their period, it is too short. They have another issues, pending issues, what the citizens really want. And the next step, what can we do to realize this such a long-term issues? That is, I think, the role of our network. And that is the, we try to make some long-term issues. We try to make coordinations, cooperate the ideas. And last Saturday, we met a first time face-to-face, and just 15 minutes, and I have such a emotional feeling. I didn't have such feeling. Emotional feeling, I have such wishes, and we can find really new solutions. And with these solutions, we try to share not only the international city, but also we try to share with citizens. And citizens should request to a mayor, and they should make a mayor uncomfortable and inconvenient, so that the mayor should continuously, the long-term issues make the continuous. That is, I think, our role to make us between top-down and bottom-up process. Thank you.
Thank you. Good point. All right.
Yes, I believe we have to understand, and it has already been said before, that the climate crisis is actually a social crisis. We know that people are affected in different ways. The older and the youngest people are affected more. People responsible for care work, and these are still mostly women, are affected more than men. And we have to take care of those vulnerable groups. And this is not only a question of infrastructure, it is, of course, but it's also a question of community work, and we are eager to learn from you how you're doing it and how you're organizing it in society. And the second thing, and I want to follow the remarks that you have already made, we have already started in the last 2 days our talking in our group. It's, I think, a worthwhile effort to join our forces to revision cities. So work on the vision of what a city can look like in the future. And that starts with public space. What's the use and what's the design of public space in the future, so that it meets not only the needs, but also our interest, our passion for cities. And that's, I'm looking forward to that kind of creative talk in our group.
And finally, I mean, one of the things that it's, if you look where I work at the Digital Agency for Public Innovation within Mexico City. So I'll speak about that, which is all the topics that my fellow colleagues have mentioned are incredibly important, but I would like to add something that more than a problem itself, it's kind of a tool that is kind of overarching it over everything, which is the role of technology within governance. I think that for ages, and I truly believe that for ages, 30, 40 years, we have seen technology as something that we, as government, usually outsource. We try to decide a solution, and we make somebody from outside of government create it and deliver it to us. As solutions require now technology in pretty much everything that we do, I think cities particularly, but governments in general, need to understand the need to bring in capacity to deliver their own solutions, technological solutions, in-house to a certain degree. Maybe not everything, but having the capacity to design and the capacity to deliver some of those solutions. And that is something that we have learned very positively in Mexico City, which is the capacity to deliver digital services easier when you have the know-how in-house instead of having to rely on providers for everything. And as technology becomes more and more prevalent around the world, around the needs for digital services in cities, that is something that I think is crucial in terms of the infrastructure and the human capital that we have within cities.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, now I have the pleasure of summarizing, which will be 60 minutes. Joking, joking, joking. Again, I mean, honestly, I don't need to summarize. I think the points that were raised, first, you know, in looking back history and then looking at the future. Plus, now we have a list. I'm sure our CLC colleague has taken down all the notes. So now we have a homework for all of us, all of you, looking forward to actually, you know, work together on that. I think this panel, I hope you agree with me, really not a part, it's not only is it holistically covered, we have some jokes, we have some fun, we have great emotions from the heart. You know, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It comes from the heart of each of us to want to do something, right? And with that, I think nothing can block us. And history have shown repeatedly. The only, perhaps, call is that don't wait too long. So often, we only react when we are in crisis. And then the outcome is great, and we are all happy. But can we do better? Can we be more, right, sort of anticipatory to say, let's plan for it. When something bad happens, we can all live through it with minimal disruption and to the life of the people. I think that's really the new kind of mindset that we need to go further. All right, with that, I want to expand my heartiest congratulations to this panel of laureate cities and the representative. Congratulations again and again, and look forward to working together. And thank you all so much for taking time to contribute to this forum today, this afternoon. All right, thank you very much, and thank you all for attending. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Lam, and our esteemed panelists for the engaging discussion. Can I ask all of you to remain on stage, please? And may I also invite Professor Cheong and CLC Research Director Elaine Tan to join us on stage for a group photograph with the panel. To our guests, we have come to the end of the Knowledge Forum. If you have any thoughts on the Knowledge Forum to share with us, there will be a QR code shown on screen shortly after the photo taking is finished. Do scan that QR code to share your feedback with us. I would also like to invite guests to join the other Lee Kuan Yew World City Prize related programs later today, such as the convening session at 2 p.m. and the prize lecture at 4 p.m. Once again, thank you for joining us this morning, and we wish you a great World City Summit ahead.